The bell above Murphy's diner chimed its familiar tune as Sarah Chen wiped down the last table of her evening shift. Rain hammered against the windows like angry fists, and the neon sign outside flickered between red and darkness. She glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. Almost time to lock up and head home to her tiny apartment above the flower shop. Thunder cracked overhead, followed by the screech of tires on wet asphalt. Sarah looked up from counting her tips to see headlights spinning wildly across the parking lot. A black sedan careened off the road, jumped the curb, and slammed into the dumpster behind the diner with a sickening crunch of metal and glass. "Oh my God," she whispered, dropping her dish rag and rushing toward the door. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the lock. The car's engine hissed and steamed in the downpour. Sarah grabbed the emergency flashlight from behind the counter and pushed through the back exit. The sedan's driver door hung open at an odd angle. Steam rose from the crumpled hood, and broken glass sparkled like diamonds on the wet pavement. "Hello? Are you hurt?" she called out, approaching carefully. The beam of her flashlight swept across the wreckage until it landed on a figure slumped against a nearby tree. The man was massive, well over 6 feet tall, with dark hair matted against his forehead. Blood seeped through his white dress shirt, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. But what made Sarah's heart skip wasn't his injuries, it was the 2 tiny bundles he clutched protectively against his chest. Babies. Twin infants, no more than a few months old, wrapped in soft blankets. They weren't crying, just staring up at the stranger with impossibly alert eyes that seemed to reflect the flashlight beam like tiny mirrors. "Sir, can you hear me?" Sarah knelt beside him, rain soaking through her uniform. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd first thought, maybe early 30s, with sharp cheekbones and skin that looked like he'd never seen the sun. "I'm calling an ambulance." His eyes snapped open. They were the strangest shade of amber she'd ever seen, almost golden in the flashlight beam. For a moment, she felt dizzy, like she was falling into those eyes. "No hospitals," he said, his voice carrying an accent she couldn't place, something old and European. His grip tightened on the babies. "Please. They'll take them." "Who will take them?" "Sir, you're bleeding. You need medical attention." Sarah pulled out her phone, but his hand shot out faster than humanly possible and grasped her wrist. His skin was ice cold. "No hospitals," he repeated, and there was something in his voice that made her want to obey. "The children, they're not safe there. I have to protect them." One of the babies made a soft cooing sound, and Sarah's heart melted. The little girl, she could tell by the pink blanket, had the same unusual eyes as the man. The boy, wrapped in blue, had darker eyes but the same otherworldly alertness. "Are you their father?" Sarah asked gently. The man's jaw tightened. "In every way that matters." He struggled to sit up straighter, wincing as pain shot through his torso. "My name is Gabriel Blackwood. These are Elena and Marcus. They're special children." "All children are special," Sarah said automatically, then felt foolish. There was something different about these babies, something she couldn't put her finger on. They were too quiet, too aware, and their eyes. Gabriel studied her face in the dim light. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be?" A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. "Most people would be." He coughed, and Sarah saw fresh blood on his mouth. "You work here?" "I'm a waitress." "Sarah Chen." She gestured toward the diner. "Look, Mr. Blackwood, I can't force you to go to a hospital, but you're seriously hurt. Let me at least help you inside where it's dry. I have a first aid kit, and you can use the phone if you need to call someone." Gabriel's expression softened as he looked at her. "You would help a stranger? Someone you know nothing about? You're hurt, and you have babies with you." "Of course I'd help." Sarah stood and held out her hand. "Can you walk?" Gabriel shifted the twins to one arm with surprising ease and grasped her hand with the other. The moment their skin touched, Sarah felt a jolt of electricity run up her arm. Gabriel's eyes widened slightly, as if he'd felt it too. He was heavier than she expected, and, leaning on her for support, They made their way slowly toward the diner's back entrance. Gabriel favored his left side, and Sarah could smell something metallic in the air, blood, but also something else. Something that reminded her of rain and dark forests. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Sarah helped Gabriel to a booth near the back. She settled the babies on the opposite seat, making sure they couldn't roll off. They remained impossibly calm and quiet. "I'll get the first aid kit," she said, but Gabriel caught her arm again. "Sarah." The way he said her name sent shivers down her spine. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." She studied his face, noting the sharp angles of his features and the way shadows seemed to cling to him even under the bright lights. "What happened to you?" "The accident, I mean. Were you running from something?" Gabriel's expression darkened. "Someone." "Yes." He glanced at the babies, and his voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "There are people who would hurt these children to get to me. People who don't understand what they are." "What they are?" Sarah repeated. "They're babies." "They're more than that." Gabriel's amber eyes met hers. "Sarah, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen. The twins' mother died giving birth to them 3 months ago. She was, like me, different. These children carry that difference in their blood." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Different how?" Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, studying her face as if trying to decide how much to reveal. "Their mother was hunted by people who fear what they don't understand. Now those same people are hunting the twins. And me. Why? What did you do?" "I exist," Gabriel said simply. "That's all it takes for some people." He touched the boy's cheek gently. "Marcus and Elena are innocent, but they'll never be safe as long as certain organizations know about them." Sarah's practical side screamed that this was crazy, that she should call the police and let them sort it out. But, looking at Gabriel holding the babies, seeing the genuine love and protectiveness in his eyes, she found herself believing him. "The first aid kit," she said finally. "Let me clean those cuts." Gabriel nodded gratefully. As Sarah disappeared into the supply closet, he looked down at the twins. Elena gurgled softly and reached up with a tiny hand. When she touched Gabriel's finger, her eyes flashed, just for a second, from amber to brilliant silver. "I know, little one," Gabriel whispered. "I can feel them too. They're getting closer." Sarah returned with the kit and a clean towel. "Okay, let me see how bad it is." Gabriel reluctantly unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a muscled chest marked with several deep gashes. But what made Sarah gasp wasn't the wounds, it was how quickly they seemed to be healing. The bleeding had almost stopped, and the edges of the cuts were already beginning to close. "How is that possible?" she breathed. Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I heal faster than normal people." "How much faster?" "By tomorrow, these will be scars. In a week, they'll be gone completely." Gabriel watched her face carefully. "Are you going to run now?" Sarah stared at him for a long moment, then continued cleaning the wounds with steady hands. "No. But I think you need to tell me the truth about what you are." Gabriel was quiet while she worked, wincing occasionally but otherwise still as stone. The babies remained peaceful, their strange eyes tracking every movement around them. Finally, Sarah sat back. "There. That's the best I can do." She looked directly into Gabriel's eyes. "Now talk." Gabriel took a deep breath. "The truth is something most people aren't ready for. But, you." He paused, studying her face again. "You're different too, aren't you? You feel things others don't. See things that shouldn't be there." Sarah's hands stilled. He was right, though she'd never admitted it to anyone. Ever since childhood, she'd had moments, flashes of intuition that turned out to be true, dreams that came to pass, an ability to sense when people were lying or hiding something dark. "How did you know?" she whispered. "Because you're not afraid of me, even though every instinct you have should be screaming danger." Gabriel's voice was gentle now. And, because the babies are calm around you. They only relax around people who have abilities. Abilities, Sarah repeated numbly. Psychic gifts. Some humans are born with them. Very few, and most never develop them fully. Gabriel leaned forward slightly. The people hunting us, they hunt people like you too. They call themselves the Order of the Silver Dawn, and they believe anyone with supernatural abilities is an abomination that needs to be destroyed. Sarah's blood ran cold. Supernatural abilities. And, what about you? What are your abilities? Gabriel hesitated for a long moment, then met her eyes directly. I'm faster and stronger than humans. I heal quickly. I can see in complete darkness, and I can sense emotions and intentions in others. He paused. And I don't age. Don't age? How old are you? I was born in 1847. Sarah's world tilted. That's impossible. Is it? You just watched me heal from wounds that should have required surgery. Gabriel's voice remained patient, understanding. Sarah, I'm what legends call a vampire. But, not the monsters from movies I don't need to kill to survive, and I'm not evil. I'm just different. The word hung in the air between them. Vampire. It should have been ridiculous, laughable. But, looking at Gabriel, his pale skin, his cold touch, his inhuman healing, those amber eyes that seemed to see straight through her, Sarah found she believed him. The babies, she said slowly. They're part vampire? Half. Their mother was human, but she had strong psychic abilities. The combination created something new. Gabriel's expression grew tender as he looked at the twins. They'll have both sets of gifts as they grow. That's why the Order wants them, they represent evolution, change. Everything the Order fears. A car door slammed outside, followed by the crunch of footsteps on gravel. Gabriel's head snapped up, his entire body going rigid. They've found us, he whispered. Sarah looked toward the front windows and saw dark shapes moving in the parking lot. The Order? Yes. Gabriel gathered the babies quickly but carefully. Sarah, you have to get out of here. Now. If they know you helped me, I'm not leaving you. The words came out before Sarah could stop them, surprising them both. Gabriel stared at her. You barely know me. Maybe. But, I know evil when I see it, and those people outside, I can feel it from here. Like ice in my veins. Sarah grabbed her purse and keys. Is there another way out? The kitchen, Gabriel said. But, Sarah, if you come with us, there's no going back. They'll mark you as an enemy. Sarah looked at the babies, so small and helpless, then, at Gabriel, who despite his supernatural nature radiated a protectiveness and gentleness that felt genuine. Outside, she could hear voices speaking in low, clipped tones. Then, we better not let them catch us, she said. Gabriel's eyes flashed with something that might have been admiration. You're sure about this? No, Sarah admitted. But, I'm doing it anyway. They moved quietly toward the kitchen as the front door of the diner rattled under someone's testing hand. Sarah grabbed a handful of granola bars and bottles of water from behind the counter, shoving them into her purse. There's an old service road behind the building, she whispered. It connects to the highway about 2 miles north. Gabriel nodded. My car is destroyed. Do you have transportation? My motorcycle. It's not much, but it's fast. Sarah led them through the kitchen to the back door, her heart hammering against her ribs. Can you ride with the babies? Yes. I'll keep them safe. The back alley was empty, but Sarah could hear voices circling toward them from the front of the building. Her motorcycle sat under a small awning, its black paint gleaming wetly in the rain. Gabriel secured the twins inside his jacket, creating a protective pocket against his chest. Sarah started the engine, which roared to life with a sound that seemed deafeningly loud in the quiet night. Go, Gabriel said, sliding onto the bike behind her. Sarah gunned the engine and shot down the alley just as shouts erupted behind them. In her mirror, she saw dark figures emerging from the shadows, and something that looked like weapons glinting in their hands. They hit the service road at full speed, Sarah leaning into the turns as they climbed into the hills outside town. Gabriel's arm circled her waist, holding her steady while protecting the babies with his other arm. Despite everything, Sarah felt a strange sense of rightness, as if this wild ride through the night was exactly where she was supposed to be. "Where are we going?" Gabriel called over the engine noise. Sarah thought of her apartment, her job, her ordinary life that had just disappeared in the space of an hour. "I know a place. My grandmother's cabin, about 50 miles north. It's isolated, off the grid. Will we be safe there?" Sarah took a sharp turn onto a smaller road, the motorcycle's headlight cutting through sheets of rain. "Safe enough to figure out what we're going to do next." Behind them, headlights appeared in the distance, growing larger. The order was following. Gabriel's arm tightened around her waist. "They're persistent." "So am I," Sarah said grimly, and pushed the motorcycle faster into the darkness. The cabin appeared through the trees like something from a fairy tale, all weathered wood and stone chimney, with ivy creeping up the walls. Sarah killed the motorcycle's engine and listened to the silence that followed. No pursuing vehicles, no shouting voices, just the sound of rain pattering on pine needles and the distant hoot of an owl. "We lost them about 20 miles back," she said, helping Gabriel dismount while he kept the sleeping babies secure against his chest. The twins had somehow slept through the entire wild ride, which Sarah found both impressive and slightly unnerving. Gabriel scanned the surrounding forest with those sharp amber eyes. "For now. But they'll keep looking." Sarah led them up the porch steps, fishing under a flower pot for the hidden key. "My grandmother lived here for 60 years. She was unusual. People in town said she was a witch, though they said it with respect, not fear. If anywhere would be safe for people like us, it's here." The door swung open to reveal a cozy interior that smelled of lavender and old books. Sarah flicked on the lights, grateful that the solar panels and battery system were still working. The main room had a stone fireplace, comfortable chairs covered in colorful quilts, and shelves lined with mysterious jars and leather-bound volumes. "She was psychic?" Gabriel asked, settling carefully into a rocking chair near the fireplace. "Among other things." Sarah moved around the room, lighting oil lamps even though the electric lights worked. "Something about the warm glow felt safer. She used to tell me stories about the old days, when people with gifts were more common. Before the modern world decided that anything unexplained was dangerous." Gabriel watched her bustle around the cabin, his expression thoughtful. "You speak of her in past tense. She died 2 years ago. Left me this place and a lot of questions I never got answers to." Sarah pulled blankets from a cedar chest. "You can sleep in her room tonight. I'll take the couch." "Sarah." Gabriel's voice was gentle. "You don't have to do this. I could take the children and leave in the morning. You've already done more than anyone could ask." Sarah paused in her blanket gathering. "Where would you go?" "I have resources. Places I can hide, people who might help." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "But the order is growing stronger. They have technology now, satellites, databases. They're not just a few religious fanatics anymore, they're a global organization with serious funding." "Funding from whom?" "Governments that fear what they can't control. Corporations that profit from keeping people afraid of anything different." Gabriel shifted Marcus to his other arm as the baby began to stir. "They've convinced the world that people like us are threats to humanity." Sarah sat down across from Gabriel, studying his face. In the soft lamplight, he looked more human somehow, though no less striking. "Are you? A threat, I mean?" Gabriel considered the question seriously. "I could be. I'm stronger and faster than humans, and I have abilities most people would find frightening. But I've spent a century and a half trying to protect humans, not harm them." "A century and a half of what?" "Various things. I was a doctor during the Civil War. My enhanced healing abilities helped me save lives other physicians couldn't. I studied medicine formally in Europe in the 1890s. In the 20th century, I worked to establish safe houses for people with supernatural abilities. Gabriel's voice grew sad. Most of those networks have been destroyed now. The Order has become very good at finding us. Elena began to fuss, making soft mewing sounds. Gabriel stood and began to rock her gently. They'll need feeding soon. Formula and bottles. There might be some baby supplies in the storage room. My cousin Emma visited last summer with her kids. Sarah disappeared down a hallway and returned with an armload of supplies. Looks like we're in luck. As Gabriel prepared bottles, Sarah watched him move around the small kitchen with easy competence. You've done this before. I helped raise my younger sisters before I was turned. That was a very long time ago. Gabriel's expression grew distant. They lived full, normal human lives. Married, had children, grew old, died. I attended their funerals in disguise, watching from the back of churches as strangers mourned people I once knew as children. The loneliness in his voice made Sarah's chest ache. That must have been terrible. It was my choice. I could have revealed myself, but it would have put them in danger. People I loved had already died because of what I am. Gabriel settled back into the rocking chair and began feeding Elena, while Marcus dozed in a makeshift bed Sarah had created from pillows and blankets. The domestic scene felt surreal, a vampire bottle feeding a baby while rain drummed on the cabin roof. Tell me about their mother, Sarah said softly. Gabriel's expression softened and grew pained at the same time. Her name was Victoria. She was a nurse in Seattle, working in the supernatural underground, treating people with abilities who couldn't go to regular hospitals. She was incredibly brave and kind. How did you meet her? I was injured in a fight with Order agents. Victoria treated me, and, afterward. Gabriel smiled sadly. She wasn't afraid of me either. We worked together for several months before we realized we'd fallen in love. Sarah felt an unexpected pang of something that might have been jealousy. What happened to her? The pregnancy was difficult. Half-vampire children are rare, most human women can't carry them to term. Victoria grew weaker as the babies developed their abilities in the womb. Gabriel's voice dropped to a whisper. I tried everything, every healer I knew, every ancient remedy. Nothing worked. I'm sorry, Sarah said, and meant it. Gabriel looked up at her with eyes full of grief. She made me promise to protect them, to give them a chance at a normal life. I'd been running ever since, trying to find somewhere safe to raise them. Elena finished her bottle and began to doze against Gabriel's shoulder. In sleep, her features relaxed, and Sarah could see the delicate beauty she would grow into if she lived long enough. Gabriel, Sarah said hesitantly, what are their abilities exactly? I mean, they're babies. How can you tell? Gabriel adjusted Elena's blanket. They're empathic, they can sense emotions and intentions, which is why they're calm around you and agitated around threats. Elena shows signs of precognition, she often reacts to things before they happen. Marcus seems to have enhanced physical abilities already, and possibly some form of telepathy. Sarah's eyes widened. Telepathy? Can you read my mind? Not exactly. I can sense emotions, and sometimes catch surface thoughts if someone is projecting strongly. But, you. Gabriel studied her face. You have natural mental shields. It's actually quite impressive. I don't feel impressive. I feel terrified and confused and like I've lost my mind. Gabriel set down Elena's bottle and leaned forward. Sarah, what you're feeling is normal. You've just learned that the world is far stranger and more dangerous than you knew. But, you're handling it better than most people would. How do you figure that? You haven't run screaming. You haven't called the authorities. You're helping protect children who aren't even your own, simply because it's the right thing to do. Gabriel's voice grew warm. That takes extraordinary courage. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. Or extraordinary stupidity? Gabriel laughed, the first genuine laughter she'd heard from him. The sound was rich and warm, transforming his face completely. Perhaps. But I've learned that courage and stupidity often look very similar from the outside. A comfortable silence settled over them, broken only by the crackling fire and the baby's soft breathing. Sarah found herself studying Gabriel's profile, noting the strong line of his jaw and the way shadows played across his features. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said finally. "After tonight, I think we're past worrying about what's too personal. What's it like? Being what you are?" Gabriel was quiet for a long moment. "Lonely, mostly. You watch the world change around you, watch everyone you care about age and die while you remain the same. You have to be careful not to get too close to humans, because loving them means losing them. Do you regret it? Being turned? Some days. But I've also been able to help people, save lives, protect those who can't protect themselves." Gabriel looked down at the sleeping babies. "And if I were human, I wouldn't be able to protect Elena and Marcus." Sarah curled up in her chair, pulling a quilt around her shoulders. "What happens now? I mean, long term. You can't run forever." Gabriel's expression grew grim. "The Order won't stop hunting us. They believe the twins represent the beginning of a new supernatural race that could eventually surpass humanity. They see them as an extinction-level threat." "Are they? A threat, I mean? Not in the way the Order fears. But they will be powerful, and power always makes some people nervous." Gabriel stood and began pacing, Elena still sleeping against his shoulder. "I've been thinking about that problem for months, and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. Which is, we have to prove that supernatural beings and humans can coexist peacefully. That we're not the monsters the Order claims we are." Gabriel stopped pacing and looked directly at Sarah. "But I can't do that alone." Something in his tone made Sarah's pulse quicken. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that meeting you tonight wasn't an accident. You have abilities, Sarah. Raw talent that with proper training could be formidable. And, more than that, you have something rare, a truly good heart." Sarah felt overwhelmed. "Gabriel, I'm just a waitress from a small town. I'm not some supernatural warrior. Neither was I, when I was first turned. But we become what the world needs us to become." Gabriel moved closer, his amber eyes intense. "The Order hunts people like us in isolation, picking us off one by one. But if we work together, if we built a community." "You're talking about starting a war." "I'm talking about ending one." "The Order has been hunting supernatural beings for centuries, committing genocide against people whose only crime is being different. Someone has to stop them." Sarah's grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "Sometimes the most ordinary people are called to do the most extraordinary things, child. When that call comes, you'll know it in your bones." Looking at Gabriel holding the babies, seeing the hope and determination in his eyes, Sarah felt something shift inside her, like a door opening that she'd kept locked her entire life. "If I agreed to help," she said slowly, "what would that mean exactly?" Gabriel's face lit up with hope. "It would mean learning to use your abilities properly. It would mean helping me find and protect other supernatural families. And it would mean giving Elena and Marcus a chance to grow up in a world where they don't have to hide what they are. And it would mean putting myself permanently on the Order's hit list." "Yes," Gabriel said honestly. "I won't lie to you about the dangers. But, Sarah, you're already on their list. The moment you helped us escape tonight, you became their enemy." The weight of that truth settled over Sarah like a heavy blanket. Her old life was gone, there was no going back to the diner, to her apartment, to pretending she was just an ordinary person with occasionally weird intuition. "How do you propose we start this supernatural resistance movement?" she asked. Gabriel smiled, and Sarah realized she was beginning to love that smile. "Carefully. We find others like us, build safe houses, create networks of communication. We document the Order's crimes and find ways to expose them to the human authorities. And, in the meantime? In the meantime, we protect each other. We protect the children. And, we prove that monsters are made by choice, not by nature. Marcus stirred in his makeshift bed, making soft baby noises. Gabriel carefully transferred Elena to Sarah's arms and picked up his son. The moment Elena settled against Sarah's chest, she felt a strange warmth spread through her body, and, suddenly, for just an instant, she could feel what the baby was feeling. Contentment, safety, and something that might have been affection. Did she just? Sarah looked at Gabriel in amazement. She bonded with you. It's something psychic children do with people they trust completely. Gabriel's voice was soft with wonder. Sarah, she's chosen you as family. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she looked down at Elena's peaceful face. This tiny, perfect child with her impossible amber eyes and supernatural gifts needed protection, needed love, needed a chance to grow up safe and happy. Okay, Sarah said quietly. Okay? Okay, I'll help. I'll learn to use whatever abilities I have. I'll help you build your supernatural underground railroad or whatever we're calling it. Sarah looked up at Gabriel, her decision crystallizing. But, I have conditions. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. First, we do this right. No vigilante justice, no becoming the monsters they claim we are. We're the good guys, which means we act like it. Agreed. Second, the children come first, always. Whatever we build, their safety and happiness is the top priority. Absolutely. And, third. Sarah hesitated, then forged ahead. You have to teach me everything. About my abilities, about supernatural history, about what we're really up against. No more secrets, no more protecting me from difficult truths. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it with full knowledge of what I'm getting into. Gabriel studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You have my word. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains, and lightning illuminated the forest. But, inside the cabin, surrounded by warmth and lamplight and the soft breathing of sleeping babies, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years, a sense of purpose. Her grandmother had always said that some people were meant for extraordinary things. As Sarah rocked Elena gently and watched Gabriel tend to Marcus with infinite care, she began to understand what the old woman had meant. The ordinary life of Sarah Chen, waitress, was over. But, the extraordinary life of Sarah Chen, protector of the supernatural and guardian of impossible children, was just beginning. When do we start? She asked. Gabriel smiled, and, in his amber eyes, Sarah saw the promise of adventures and dangers and wonders she couldn't even imagine. Right now, he said. Welcome to the war for the future of both our worlds. 3 weeks at the cabin had transformed Sarah's world in ways she never could have imagined. Every morning she woke to the sound of Gabriel moving quietly around the kitchen, preparing bottles for Elena and Marcus. Every evening they sat by the fireplace while he taught her to control her emerging psychic abilities. And, every night, she fell asleep to the impossible reality that she was living with a vampire and helping raise 2 extraordinary children. Gabriel had been an excellent teacher, patient and encouraging as Sarah learned to consciously access her intuitive gifts. She could now sense emotions from across a room, had predicted 3 different weather changes, and had even managed to move a pencil using only her mind, though that had left her with a headache for hours. The babies were thriving in their temporary sanctuary. Elena had started smiling, especially at Sarah, and Marcus was already showing signs of enhanced strength, gripping fingers with surprising force for a 4-month-old. They seemed to understand far more than normal babies their age, their unusual eyes tracking conversations and responding to emotional shifts in the room. But, their peaceful interlude was about to end. Sarah was hanging laundry on the back porch when she felt a wrongness in the air, like the pressure drop before a storm. Gabriel appeared beside her so quickly it made her gasp. You feel it too, he said grimly. They've found us. Sarah's voice was steady despite the fear racing through her veins. Gabriel nodded, his amber eyes scanning the forest. Multiple vehicles, approaching from the south road. They'll be here within the hour. Sarah's mind raced. They had prepared for this possibility, creating escape routes and emergency plans. But somehow she'd hoped they'd have more time. The emergency packs are ready. I can have the babies ready to travel in 10 minutes, she said, moving toward the door. Gabriel caught her arm gently. Sarah, before we run again, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you weeks ago. The gravity in his voice made her pause. What is it? Gabriel took a deep breath. My full name is Gabriel Alexander Blackwood. And I'm not just any vampire, I'm what the supernatural world calls the Vampire King. Sarah stared at him. The what? For the past 50 years, I've been the elected leader of the vampire clans worldwide. I've been trying to unite supernatural beings under one banner for mutual protection. Gabriel's expression was pained. I've been hiding my identity because it makes me an even bigger target, but you deserve to know the truth about who you're helping. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. You're their king? And you didn't think to mention this? I was protecting you. The fewer people who know my true identity, the safer everyone is. Gabriel's eyes pleaded for understanding. But I realize now that was unfair to you. You agreed to help Gabriel the refugee father, not Gabriel the supernatural leader. Sarah's mind reeled. This changes everything. If the Order catches us, they won't just be capturing some random vampire, they'll be capturing their biggest enemy. Yes. And they know it now. The attack on us 3 weeks ago wasn't random, they've been tracking me specifically. Gabriel's jaw tightened. I've led them right to you and the children. Before Sarah could respond, her psychic senses screamed a warning. Black vehicles were moving through the forest, and the people inside them radiated a cold malevolence that made her skin crawl. Gabriel, she said urgently, they're not just here to capture us. They're here to kill us. All of us. Gabriel's face went deathly pale. Are you certain? I can feel their intentions. They've decided you're too dangerous to take alive. Sarah grabbed his hand. We have to go now. They rushed inside, where Gabriel scooped up both babies while Sarah grabbed their emergency bags. But, as they headed for the back door, Sarah's precognitive abilities suddenly flared to life, showing her flashes of the immediate future, armed figures surrounding the cabin, gunfire, smoke, flames. Wait, she gasped, grabbing Gabriel's arm. They're already in position. Every exit is covered. Gabriel's supernatural hearing picked up sounds human ears would miss, the soft crunch of boots on pine needles, the whisper of fabric against tree bark, the metallic click of weapons being readied. How many? He asked. Sarah closed her eyes, extending her psychic senses. 12. Maybe 15. They have some kind of technology that's interfering with my abilities, I can't get a clear read. Gabriel shifted the babies to secure them better against his chest. Sarah, I need you to listen to me carefully. In the basement, behind the old coal bin, there's a tunnel my grandmother dug during Prohibition. It leads to a cave system about half a mile away. How do you know about that? Gabriel's expression was sheepish. I've known about this place longer than I admitted. Your grandmother and I were acquainted. She helped shelter supernatural refugees for decades. Sarah felt another shock of revelation. You knew my grandmother? Helena was one of the most powerful psychic healers I ever met. She helped establish several of the safe houses I mentioned. Gabriel's voice was urgent. She made me promise to watch over you if anything ever happened to her. So this whole thing, meeting me at the diner, was chance. But, my recognizing your abilities, understanding what you were capable of, that was because Helena had described you to me. Gabriel's amber eyes were intense. She knew you would be important to the supernatural community someday. She just didn't know how. Before Sarah could process this latest revelation, the sound of splintering wood came from the front of the cabin. The order had arrived. Basement, Gabriel whispered. Now. They slipped down the narrow stairs as heavy boots thundered across the floor above them. Sarah led the way to the old coal bin, her psychic abilities helping her navigate in the darkness. Behind the rusty metal bin, she found what looked like a solid stone wall until she pressed on a specific stone and a section swung inward, revealing a narrow tunnel. Gabriel Blackwood, a voice called from upstairs. "We know you're here. Surrender yourself and the abominations, and we might let the human woman live." Gabriel's face contorted with rage. "Abominations," he growled. "They're calling innocent babies abominations." "Save the anger for later," Sarah whispered, pushing him toward the tunnel. "Right now we need to disappear." The tunnel was barely wide enough for Gabriel's shoulders, carved roughly through limestone and supported with ancient wooden beams. Sarah moved ahead with a small flashlight while Gabriel followed, protecting the babies from the rough walls. Behind them, they could hear the order agents systematically searching the cabin. Furniture crashed, walls were torn open, and angry voices echoed through the basement. There, one of them shouted. Fresh footprints in the coal dust. The tunnel seemed to stretch forever, sloping gradually downward into the heart of the mountain. Sarah's psychic senses were screaming warnings about the men behind them, but she also felt something else, a pull toward safety, as if the cave system itself was designed to hide people like them. "How much further?" Gabriel asked quietly. "I'm not sure. But I can feel something ahead. Something good." They emerged into a natural cave chamber lit by an impossible soft glow. Sarah stopped in amazement. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to shift and move in the strange light, and the air hummed with an energy she could feel in her bones. "This is incredible," she breathed. Gabriel looked around in wonder. "Helena never told me about this part." These symbols, they're protective wards, carved by someone with extraordinary power. A new voice spoke from the shadows. She carved them herself, over the course of 30 years. Sarah spun around to see a woman emerging from a side passage. She was tall and elegant, with silver hair and eyes that reminded Sarah of Gabriel's, ancient and knowing. "Who are you?" Gabriel demanded, his body coiled for action. "My name is Miranda Ashworth. I was Helena's teacher, and her friend." The woman's gaze moved to Sarah with something like recognition. "And I've been waiting here for 3 weeks, knowing you would eventually need sanctuary." Sarah's psychic senses were pinging like crazy, but not with danger, with recognition. "You're like us. Supernatural." Miranda smiled. "I'm a very old witch, child. And I've been fighting the order since before your vampire king was turned." She gestured to a comfortable seating area that definitely hadn't been there moments before. "Please, rest. You're safe here. The order will never find this chamber." Gabriel remained tense. "How do I know you're not working with them?" "Because if I were, you'd already be dead," Miranda said matter-of-factly. "And because Helena trusted me with her most precious secret, the location of her granddaughter." Sarah felt her knees go weak. She knew this would happen. She knew I'd end up here. Helena had very powerful precognitive abilities. She saw several possible futures, most of them quite dark. But, in all the versions where humanity and supernatural beings survive the coming war, you play a crucial role. Miranda's expression grew serious. "Both of you." Gabriel finally relaxed slightly, settling onto one of the conjured chairs while keeping the babies close. "What kind of role?" Miranda waved her hand, and images appeared in the air like a three-dimensional movie. Sarah saw battles between order agents and supernatural beings, cities burning, and populations fleeing in terror. "The order is planning something called the Final Purge," Miranda explained. "They've developed weapons specifically designed to kill supernatural beings, and they intend to use them to eliminate our kind entirely." "When?" Gabriel asked grimly. "Soon. Within the year." Miranda gestured, and the images shifted to show massive facilities hidden underground. "They're preparing concentration camps, Gabriel. They intend to round up every supernatural being they can find, vampire, witch, psychic, shapeshifter, and systematically exterminate them." Sarah felt sick. "This is genocide." "Yes. And they've convinced several world governments that it's necessary for human survival." Miranda's expression was grim. But Helena foresaw another possibility. She saw a future where supernatural beings and humans worked together to build something better than either species could achieve alone. Gabriel looked down at Elena and Marcus, sleeping peacefully despite the danger surrounding them. And these children are central to that future? They represent hope, Gabriel. The first generation of beings who are truly both human and supernatural. If they can grow up in a world where such coexistence is possible, they could help bridge the gap between our peoples. Sarah felt a chill of premonition. But only if we can keep them alive long enough to grow up. Exactly. Miranda's expression was grave. The Order knows this too. They see Elena and Marcus as the ultimate threat to human purity. They will never stop hunting them. Gabriel stood and began pacing, his vampire nature making him move with predatory grace even in the confined space. Then, we have to stop the Order first. We? Miranda raised an eyebrow. Sarah and I have been talking about building a supernatural resistance movement. If what you're saying is true, we need to accelerate those plans. Miranda smiled approvingly. Helena always said you had your grandfather's strategic mind, Gabriel. Gabriel stopped pacing. You knew my grandfather? I knew your entire family before you were turned. Your grandfather Marcus, yes, you named the baby after him, was one of the greatest supernatural leaders in history. He helped establish the peace treaties between the vampire clans and the European witches' covens. Sarah looked between Gabriel and Miranda, feeling like she was drowning in revelations. Is there anyone who isn't connected to someone else in this supernatural soap opera? Miranda laughed, and the sound was like silver bells. Child, when you've lived as long as some of us have, everyone becomes connected eventually. The supernatural world is smaller than you might think. Gabriel returned to his seat, his expression thoughtful. Miranda, if we're going to move against the Order, we'll need more than just the three of us. Do you know where other supernatural families are hiding? I know where some are. And I know others who could help us find more. Miranda gestured, and new images appeared in the air, faces of people who looked both human and not, locations that seemed to shift between mundane and magical. There's a pack of werewolves hiding in the Cascade Mountains. A family of phoenix shapeshifters running a ranch in Montana. A coven of hereditary witches masquerading as a New Age healing center in California. Miranda's eyes gleamed. And those are just the ones I know personally. Sarah felt a stirring of hope mixed with terror. You're talking about war. We're talking about survival, Gabriel corrected gently. The Order has already declared war on us. We're just finally admitting it. Elena stirred in Gabriel's arms and opened her amber eyes, looking directly at Sarah with an expression that seemed far too knowing for a baby. For just a moment, Sarah felt a flash of precognitive vision, Elena as a young woman, standing before a great assembly of both humans and supernatural beings, speaking words that would change the world. She'll be extraordinary, Sarah whispered. Gabriel smiled softly. They both will. If we can give them the chance. Miranda stood, and the cave chamber began to shift around them, revealing passages leading in multiple directions. Then, let's give them that chance. I can hide you here while we make contact with other supernatural families. We can start building the network Gabriel described. And if the Order finds us? Miranda's eyes flashed with power that made the air in the cave crackle. Child, I've been protecting people from the Order for 300 years. They may have technology, but I have magic that's older than their entire organization. Gabriel looked at Sarah, a question in his amber eyes. Are you ready for this? Really ready? Because once we start down this path, there's no going back to a normal life. Sarah thought about her grandmother, about the diner and her small apartment and the ordinary life she'd never really fit into anyway. Then, she looked at Elena and Marcus, so small and vulnerable and precious, and at Gabriel, who had somehow become the most important person in her world. I was never meant for a normal life, she said finally. And I think I'm beginning to understand why. Gabriel's smile was radiant. Then, let's save the world. Marcus chose that moment to wake up and gurgle happily, reaching out with tiny hands toward the magical symbols glowing on the cave walls. As his fingers moved, the symbols flared brighter, responding to his touch. Well, Miranda said dryly, it seems the future vampire prince approves of our plans. Sarah reached out and took Gabriel's hand, feeling the electric connection that had been there from the moment they met. Together? Together, Gabriel agreed. Outside the hidden cave, the Order might be searching for them. In the wider world, dark forces might be gathering to destroy everything they held dear. But, in this magical sanctuary, surrounded by protective wards and ancient power, Sarah felt something she'd never experienced before, the absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The war for the future of both the human and supernatural worlds was about to begin. And, somehow, impossibly, a small-town waitress from nowhere had become one of its most important soldiers. Elena gurgled and reached for Sarah's face with tiny fingers that glowed briefly with silver light. In that moment, Sarah saw another flash of the future, not just Elena as a leader, but herself standing beside Gabriel as they faced an assembly of world leaders, no longer hiding what they were but proudly representing a new age of cooperation between species. The Vampire King had found his queen, the children had found their guardian, and the supernatural world had found its hope. Now all they had to do was survive long enough to make that hope a reality.